how did you get started creating the company, Danny's Home Healthcare?
From a very personal experience. At a young age, I was 10 years old when my youngest brother, Danny, got hit by a car when he was 7 years old. As a result of his accident, he ended up paralyzed from the neck down, requiring.
A lot of issues still are out there when it comes to healthcare and home healthcare and the quality of that home healthcare for loved ones. How have you tried to make a difference?
Well, I think that, this type of business is a service business, right? We're not selling a product, we're delivering care at home, and that's delivered by people. So I think the trick is.
And now, what services do you provide?
So in the home healthcare company, we provide, and our job in home care, keep the patients mobile and ambulatory, give them quality of life, manage their disease, and number one.
And now, on the other side, you also founded a nonprofit called D-Man Foundation. What do you do there? What are some of the things that you do?
Yeah, that's a passion project for me. That was born. They can use their eyes or their breath or the movement of their head to interface with the computer so that they can make beats, they can record, and they can, it's called a.
Hi, Melissa Bell. Welcome to Gold Media. Today joining me is Zaid Kassab. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Danny's Home Healthcare, and he's also the founder of a nonprofit called D-Man Foundation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get started, you have a lot of things, definitely. There's an event as well. But how did you get started, first of all, in creating the company, Danny's Home Healthcare?
Well, I grew up in the business of healthcare, and from a very personal experience. At a young age, I was 10 years old when my youngest brother, Danny, got hit by a car when he was 7 years old. As a result of his accident, he ended up paralyzed from the neck down, requiring 24-hour nursing care 7 days a week. And so we grew up in my home with 24-hour nursing care for him, and almost like for all of us, because I scraped my knee playing hockey. His nurses were, kind of bandaging us up. So we kind of had some firsthand experience with what it's like to have nursing in our home. And my dad, unfortunately, after a year of having poor care for Danny, my brother, my father started his own home care company so that we can hire the nurses ourselves to decide which nurses we wanted to take care of my brother. That's kind of how we ended up in healthcare at all.
In doing that, and I know even now, fast forward to today, a lot of issues still are out there when it comes to healthcare and home healthcare and the quality of that home healthcare for loved ones. How have you strived to make a difference in that with the company?
Well, I think that, this type of business is a service business, right? We're not selling a product, we're delivering care at home, and that's delivered by people. So I think the trick is in the people. We have a saying that we're only as good as the worst nurse on our team, right? We're only as good as the worst employee on our team. So it all comes down to really hiring the right people, getting them to buy into Danny's story and understanding why we're here, and really, delivering the care in the patient's home. Like, if that was your mom, how would you take care of them? And kind of really making that line in the sand that every patient matters, every patient counts. We got to go above and beyond. I tell people, take care of them the way you would take care of your mother. Not your mother-in-law, your mother. Well, I'm just kidding, because I love my mother-in-law, but yeah.
Right. And now I'm sure that with that comes a lot when you're doing interviews, or when they're in the interviewing process, you're really kind of going through the candidates, and what are the things that you're looking for when you're hiring somebody to.
Yeah, because of the industry we're in, certainly the first thing is they must have the right clinical degree, which you can find, but its personality is everything. And I think empathy is really important. You'll find a lot of good clinicians that have a personal story similar to mine. I became a nurse because I had to take care of my mom. I became a physical therapist because I saw what my father went through. And those personal stories, I think, those are the right type of people because they get it. They lived it at home. It wasn't just, oh, I can do this career path or that. So I like nursing because it pays well. So I go. No, they're drawn to it. And it's something that's got to be, it comes from here. It comes from the heart.
And wanting to give that. And you see that too. When my dad was at a physical rehab facility, you had some of the people that were there that really cared, and you could tell they went out of their way, because sometimes if they're not in the happiest mood either, they're in a place they don't want to be, but yeah, the people who try to like see it from their point of view and make it like a better situation for them.
Yeah, you got to have patience. You got to have empathy. Oftentimes, patients going through this, they're in lots of pain. So there's natural frustration from them. And so just understanding, like I said, empathy. We don't want sympathy. I don't want you to feel sorry for your patients. I want you to put yourself in their shoes. If that was you, what would you want from folks? And so empathy and patience is really, really big. There's no magic dust we could sprinkle to solve everyone's problem. It's one patient at a time, one visit at a time, and that's the way we get it done.
And now, what services do you provide?
So in the home healthcare company, we provide nursing, physical, occupational speech therapy, and medical social worker.
So that definitely encompasses a lot. And now, is it nationally, or do you have like different?
Yeah, we're operating in Michigan right now, California, and Florida is our newest location. And our job in home care, keep the patients mobile and ambulatory, give them quality of life, manage their disease, and number one is keep them out of the hospital. This is the main reason we exist, is to keep patients out of the hospital. Traditionally, when patients are referred to us, it's after they've fallen, after they've had a hip surgery, or a knee surgery, then they're in the hospital for some time, then they're discharged and then go to a nursing home for 60 days. Then they come home, and then when they come home, that's where we come in to make sure that they reintegrate back home, back to the community safely, so they don't end up back in the hospital. Although working closely with Medicare for over 2 decades, we're finding what the government wants. They want to save money, right? And so they've kind of allowed us to be able to open up the range of folks that we're allowed to treat, because if we can avoid that fall in the first place, avoid that surgery, that hospital stay, that nursing home stay, if we can avoid all that by them utilizing us off the rip, then it's much better for the patient. It's better for the government too. We're the lowest cost provider to the federal government for healthcare. We take care of the patients where they want to be, which is in their own home. And the big one that was always been there, but was really highlighted during the COVID-19 pandemic, is that there's the least amount of risk of the patient getting a secondary infection at home versus in a nursing home or a hospital, right? You're at home, those are your germs. But you come into a hospital or a nursing home, you go in for A, and then you pick up B and C and D, and now we're treating for all these things that weren't even there in the first place. They came as a result of your time in the hospital, your time in the SNF. As much as the hospital does in the nursing home with the infection control, you can only control so much. So best place, safest place, most affordable place, preferred place for patients to be seen is in their own home. And I really have seen a shift over the years in that. And I think we're going to continue to shift into more care based in the home versus those type of facilities.
Right. And like you're saying, too, it's going to take a lot of that additional stress off of the hospitals and these medical centers when they're not overloaded with that.
Absolutely.
And now on the other side, you also founded a nonprofit called D-Man Foundation. What do you do there? What are some of the things that you do?
Yeah, that's a passion project for me. That was born. So the home healthcare company was born from Danny's accident, right? We needed nursing to take care of him, which we did for 16 years. In 2009, he passed away. And that is where the nonprofit was born, out of his death. D-Man is short for Danny's Miracle Angel Network. And the idea was to build a network of angels that make miracles happen for people in Danny's name. If you ever seen that movie, Bruce Almighty, Morgan Freeman plays God in the movie. And our hashtag, I actually stole that line from that movie, but he says in there, if you want to see if you want to see a miracle, then you got to be the miracle. And that's because we believe very sincerely that God works through people. So we have one mission and two programs at D-Man. The mission is to increase the quality of life for patients with physical or mental disabilities through two programs. The first, very special, music therapy. And I got this idea from a place my brother used to go to. It was a handicapped accessible art studio called Paint a Miracle. And they had the clay and the kiln and the watercolors and all that there. And they would give every client a Parapro. And Danny would go in and he would paint with his mouth. They'd put like a thing in his mouth and a straw and he'd paint, with the paintbrush. And then we'd move the canvas over or left or up or down, change the colors, and he could paint. But Danny also loved music. And every day when I would get him up, get him dressed, we'd be shaving, we were always listening to music. It was Eminem, or it was Michael Jackson, or it was Motown, or everything in between. And so I got obsessed when he died with this idea to open a music therapy studio, similar to the art studio, but with music. And it took me about 4 years before I actually got it open. We built a great board, but what we built was a handicapped accessible recording studio with everything's got extra wide hallways, extra wide doors. Everything's on wheels, so easy to move. The desks go up and down, so depending on the height of the patient chair, they can roll in. It's also integrated with technology that allows the patients to make music without using their hands or feet, but they can use their eyes or their breath or the movement of their head to interface with the computer so that they can make beats, they can record, and they can, it's called a sip and puff straw or the eye gaze or tools like the magic flute that allow them to be able to make music without using their hands or feet. Additionally, we'll even record their heartbeat and use that as the baseline for their track. And so paired with, in that studio, they get paired with two types of people. One of them is a board certified music therapist that actually does a head to toe clinical assessment in areas of physical, social, emotional, and cognitive areas and creates a care plan for them to help them achieve those goals through musical exercises. It's super rad and cool. We also pair them with an audio engineer. So that's the guy who makes the music sound cool and hip and fun, and they mix it and they master it, and it sounds like a real track. So just real quick on the backstory, I have another brother in between me and Danny. His name is Calvin. Calvin went to school to be a nurse just so he could take care of Danny. But Calvin is also a rapper, a nurse rapper. And so when he would go to the studio when Danny was alive, me and Danny would go as groupies, you could say, and just kind of hang out in the studio. And one day Danny wanted to record. But when you're dependent on a ventilator to breathe, you have to wait for the machine to give you breath before you can speak. So he would, hey, my name is Danny. And then he'd have to wait. And it's hard to rap like that, right? So he's like, don't worry about it. Just do your best. And then later we went in and we edited out the sound of the breath, the gaps in between. We put the beat behind it. And he's like, whoa, this is what I would sound like if I didn't have to breathe with this machine. And that's where the music therapy idea was born and came from. And today we treat dozens of patients every day come into that studio. So it's really, really turned into something special.
That's a wonderful story. Definitely. And things like that too, like they just change a person's like outlook, when they're able to have like things back that they, that they want to do and that they miss. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've really seen some incredible clinical outcomes from some of that stuff. It's not like a group that comes and we play their favorite song and they feel better and they're healed. It's actually documented, charted, clinical, formal exercises. And I'll just give you two quick examples before we jump to the assisted travel part of our mission. But one of is a patient that was on a ventilator. She's dependent on the vent, but not fully dependent on it. She wanted to get a diaphragm pacer, but her diaphragm wasn't strong enough. Music therapist gets her a harmonica that sits over the shoulder, gives her exercises to play on the harmonica, builds up the strength in the diaphragm over the course of multiple months, was able to work with her nurse and her doctor so she can get the pacer, and now she can breathe without the machine for 4 or 5 hours a day.
Oh my goodness.
Another example is a patient who's in a car accident and has limited dexterity. So just like, we pick up a bottle of water or we pick up our fork to eat, with limited dexterity, you can't do that. And so the therapist will give them drumsticks, but really big ones that they can hold, and really, really lightweight ones, and give them beats to play and send them home with them. And then they'll come back and we'll give them a little smaller drumsticks, a little bit heavier, same thing, a little smaller, a little heavier. As the weeks go by, now they're playing with real drumsticks. Well, if you can do that, now you can feed yourself. And so little things like that are some of the really cool outcomes we've seen from the music therapy program. Just some example.
That is amazing. Yeah, because things that you're more prone to things that you want to do, like you're looking forward to it and you're, building up that, and it's building up that strength, and you're not even thinking about it until the end result. That's amazing.
Yeah. Music connects with the brain in a way like nothing else. I mean, you could probably think of a song that really hits home, that takes you back 25 years. And, I used to listen to this at my grandma's house, or it makes you remind you of a ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, or a food that you eat, or a smell, and just a really, I remember. It takes you back to a moment in time. And not a lot of things can do that like music. It's amazing. I have some patients that are so shy, they can't have a conversation, but they can sing. And it's just, it's incredible that their speech struggles when they're talking, but when they're singing, it doesn't. How does that work? We're still trying to figure some of that, the magic behind it out, but it's really special.
Now, the other part that you were mentioning too is the travel.
Yeah, so the assisted travel program, we used to take my brother Danny on vacations whenever we could, and it was far from easy. We'd have to take nursing with us, 2 or 3 nurses to cover all 24-hour shifts. We need a handicap van when we land. We need an accessible room. We need medical equipment delivered. We need to know where the local hospitals are. And it's quite the undertaking to coordinate all that. But those trips made him feel normal. Like, he turned 21. I'm like, we're going to Vegas, man, because that's what people do when they turn 21. And they're like, how are you going to take him to Vegas? How are you going to put him on a plane? I said, we'll figure it out. You got to get oxygen on the plane. Only certain types of ventilators are approved to go on planes. So it's really an undertaking, but he loved it so much. So I started doing simple things when we started, 15 years ago, which is like sending patients to Disney with their family and help coordinating the logistics. But I want to say about 8 years ago, 8 years ago-ish, I started making them group trips. And I had another patient who was like a brother for me. His name was Scott. And I was on a cruise ship for a business conference after my brother had passed away. And I had went to one of the beaches on the ships. It was 7 Mile Beach in the Cayman Islands. And I went back to the spot where when we took Danny on that cruise ship, we actually took him out of his chair, put him on a stretcher with some floaties, got him a sea collar, took him off the vent, got an ambu bag so we could give him breath, and we took him in the ocean. You should have seen the way people are looking at us. They're like, oh, they're taking him in the water on a stretcher? Usually you're coming out, right? They're taking him in. But he loved it. He said it was the best day of his life. So when we went back years later, Danny passes away. I start the foundation. I'm on a cruise ship for this conference. I'm in the same beach where we did that. And while I'm standing there, I get a phone call from Scott's mother saying that Scott has passed away. And I was like, man, if this isn't a divine intervention sign, I don't know what is. So I call my board of directors from the boat, and I'm like, we got to start taking patients on cruise ships, and we're going to take them as a group together. Oh, I don't know. It's a big thing. I said, you guys, let me do this. Trust me. And they did. And now we send between 5 and 8 patients with wheelchairs, a lot of them on ventilators, on a cruise ship to the Bahamas once a year. And it's just the most magical thing you'll ever see. I'll have to send you some links for it. In addition to that, we've done helicopter rides. We do some traditional stuff like, ball games and concerts and bowling and stuff like that, recreational activities to get them out of the house. But during the Woodward Dream Cruise, which we just came off of the Friday before last, are you familiar with the Woodward Dream Cruise?
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
so the biggest car show in the world takes place right on Woodward Avenue. We live in Detroit. This is the Motor City. We made cars here. But a lot of people don't know we also made the first road in the world, which was Woodward Avenue. That's why it's labeled M1. And every year it's this big car show. And so what we do is we have our own car show, food, live music performed by the patients who record their music in our studio. They get to perform live in front of an audience. But then we have a team of therapists and our whole Hoyer lift and slings. And we actually transfer patients out of their wheelchair and drop them right in the front seat of a convertible so they get to go up and down the Dream Cruise. And, the drivers are wonderful, the Motor City Camaro Club. And they smoke the tires and they turn up the music, and really you feel the horsepower when they take off. And you'll never feel that in your wheelchair or in a wheelchair van. It's almost like a roller coaster. For you and I, if you ever get in a sports car and someone hits it, you're like, oh, okay, hold on a second. That's the feeling. And so it's really, 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 really special
for them. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And even just being on the beach, I mean, just having that to be able to go there has got to be just such a great feeling for them, and not be where they can feel like they can have that normalcy in their lives a little bit.
There's some patients that said, so when was the last time you've been to the beach? Some of them are like, I've never been to the beach. I've never been to the ocean because I had my accident when I was 4 years old, and now I'm 29 or whatever. We took a guy this past April, Kenneth Holt. He was actually like 80 something years old. He's been in a power wheelchair for, I don't know, maybe 8 years. He did not want to go in the water. We had to convince him. And then he didn't want to get out. He said it was the best day of his life. And then he died like a few weeks after we got back from, complications. So they're magic moments. And that's what our whole foundation is about. How do we create a magic moment? It's one thing to take a patient to a concert. It's another to get the backstage passes to meet the artist, right? Or get on the field at the ball game. And that's where we really try to make a difference for folks.
For those people, that's amazing. And I know there's another event that you do. It's called Salute Our Warriors. Now, what is this one about? I know I kind of understand the concept, but is this is it in Detroit? Where is this held?
Yeah, so this is held in what I think is the greatest city in Michigan, Rochester Hills, partially because I've been here for, 30 something years. It's held at the Zaid Kassab estate. It's my father's estate. And the estate is named after my brother. It was built for him. And that one kind of came to be, Salute Our Warriors. It's really organically came to be such an amazing event. I think we had well over 1,500 people and maybe close to $140,000 raised this past year for the event. And all the money goes to the Fallen and Wounded Soldiers Fund. So the origin of that one is, my dad is an immigrant to this country. He came here in 1980 from Iraq in debt, below zero, and chasing the American dream, which he was able to, thank God, he found it by working hard, and starting his own business from a very young age. He worked for my grandpa, worked on all these people, but was able to find the American dream, thank God. And so since he built the house for my brother, every year he would have his friends who were also from the old country come over on the 4th of July, and they would just have beers and cigars, and they would change the flag every year on the 4th of July and remind themselves how lucky they were to be in America. And he started inviting more friends. And then, my dad was always active in politics. So we had some politicians coming over. And one year we had like 100 something people. And we're like, man, we should start, because we buy all the food, so we should start charging people to cover the cost. And then whatever we make, we'll donate it to a veteran organization. And we ended up connecting with the Fallen and Wounded Soldiers Fund, which is an incredible organization here in Michigan. 97 cents on every dollar goes to a veteran in need. And so we're like, all right, let's try it. And so here we are 8 years later, after we've made it formal. It has become one of, I think, the best events, certainly the most patriotic event, I think, anywhere. We support our country and our veterans a lot. Without veterans, without our service members, you don't have a country. So it's really important that we support them. And I go to a lot of these events in the past before we started doing our own, and they're nice and, tuxedos and chicken dinner and speeches, but it was always kind of more like, see what the veterans go through. And it was kind of tug on your heartstring when they come back from war and now they can't find a job, and makes you want to donate. And that's all great. But I wanted to be something that was like, USA, hoorah, like let's really get them excited and make sure that we're thanking them for their service, and make it a fun and a party and an uplifting event versus, oh, it's so sad, the poor veterans, right? And so we kind of, we got music, we got rock and roll, and then we started having, we were able to get a couple flyovers from the Yankee Air Museum. And then we started having some real good turnouts, and we had actually some wonderful friends of mine, Army General Roger Burroughs, and Air Force General Doug Slocum, who would come and they would meet and greet the veterans. And then we had a full color guard. So we started bringing them in, 3 honorees, and a helicopter. So they'd come in a helicopter, they'd get like an honor flight. They land in the backyard, greeted by a full color guard saluting them, shaking the hands of United States generals as they land, congressmen, congresswomen, both sides of the aisle. It's a bipartisan event because everyone should be able to get behind veterans. And then it started to turn into a helicopter party. I got a helicopter, I'll bring a veteran. I got a helicopter, I'll bring a veteran. And so we had all these different people trying to land, and it just turned out to be this really organically special thing that came about. And we just finished our 8th year.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's like you're saying, a lot of times it's talking about the fallen or this, but not just celebrating, hey, we're celebrating you and everything you do. We want to take this time to give you like a day that's like,
And it's important, and especially for the Vietnam guys who didn't get the most warm welcome home, recognizing them. And I swear, I mean, the impact it's made for them, like we give them awards, and then they keep one guy. We lost a couple of them over the years because we recognized some people in their 90s. I think we had 2 people that were over 100 this past year, and they take their plaques with them to the hospital, and he died with them, one of the guys. We also have made a really great connection with the American Rosie Association. So you remember the Rosie the Riveter, You Can Do It. So we've had some original Rosies. This year we had a 101-year-old Frances Masters. She's an original Rosie the Riveter at the event. And so it's just really special, to be able to honor them and recognize them for, a lifetime of service. She actually gave a very funny speech. She said, she's up there giving her speech. She said, I don't know if you guys know this, but Marilyn Monroe was also a Rosie. But they found her before they found me. So we were all cracking up, at 101 years old, a great sense of humor and sharp. It was just really, really special.
And I know, and all the experiences, like you think, like even with my grandfather, he served in World War II, and just, you think, I thought about him in one way, but when you hear some of the stories, I was like, wow, they're just like us. Like, they had their young dreams and all their experiences, and it's amazing too, that.
We had a Charlie Cohn this past year, who was a World War II pilot, 95 years old, and still flies.
Oh my goodness.
And still flies at 95 years old, sharp as a whip. So, keep you young when you stay active in the old age. But it's just such an honor to be able to recognize them for what they did. It really inspires, I think, not just the people there, but there's tons of active duty military and veterans that attend the event. And it reminds them that what they're doing is not for nothing. And there are people out there that really appreciate them. And it lifts their spirit in such a way. And then all the money that we raise goes to the Fallen Wounded Soldiers Fund, which helps veterans. Sometimes it's the families of the fallen veterans, right, who need help now. How are we going to pay the bills? They need a place to stay. They need food. They need a car. So Fallen Wounded is if you get a chance, it's fwsf.org. Wonderful organization.
Okay, definitely going to mention them. And you have a lot of things going on, but just like, where do you go from here? Like, I know you're probably going to continue to find new ways to kind of give back to the community. What are some things that you have like on the horizon or that you're in the plans with?
Well, we're still growing the home health agency that takes care of those seniors at home. And we do a lot of work with VAs, Michigan, California as well. taking care of those veterans at home. So we want to continue to build on that and grow on that. The foundation has overgrown its space for the music studio. So right now we're working on building a new, bigger one. We're really excited about that, to have a larger space to be able to take care of more people. And I want to just do more vacations, more helicopter rides, more cruise ships, more everything. Because, when my brother died, he died suddenly. It wasn't like, oh, he was on hospice and it was a slow decline. It was like one day it was just like, and I said, man, life is too short. With or without an injury, every day could be our last. And you hear that saying all the time, but it's very true. And so, especially with these types of diagnoses and these high-level catastrophic cases that we take care of, every day could be their last. And so, my mindset is the time is always right now to make a difference and make those magic moments and do it right now. So I just hope to continue, doing all that stuff. I've been taking care of my beautiful wife and 4 kids, which keeps me also very busy.
Exactly. Awesome. Love it. No,
Okay.
I really appreciate you joining us today. And it's been, and like you're saying too, I think a lot of times I think they're afraid, and people feel like, I don't want to break that person, or maybe, you know what I mean? They're afraid to like approach, but like you said, take that time and just talk to them about, hey, how are you? How's it going today? It's, just, yeah, that makes more of the difference than.
Yeah. Big time. A big ice. I tell people, nice wheels. That's my whole thing. I see people, oh, nice wheels. Where'd you get the chair from? Or I'll see things that could be improved on the chair and be like, hey, it's not my business, I noticed, but I know a guy that can help you fix that, and just try to help wherever you can. Pick up the check for them sometimes, and I don't know, little things like that. It goes a long ways. You can't take your money with you when you die. God's not going to ask you how big your house was, but he'll ask you who you gave a bed to when they needed a place to stay. So remember that those are things that matter. And I guess that's, part of the message I have, for everyone is pay it forward. And if you see a way that you can help somehow, do it.
Yeah.
For everyone, not just people with special needs, just for anybody. If you can help, you should.
Right. Do it. Take that time. Well, thank you again for joining us.